Welcome to another intriguing It's a Mystery, where we attempt to solve all kinds of mysteries, from the spooky to the wonderfully weird.
And we'd like you to help us as we investigate the following cases.
Why were the pyramids built? We explore the latest mysterious theory.
We investigate what lurks inside an apparently ordinary house. Will you be able to work it out?
And we exclusively reveal a liquid that once ran down a dinosaur's back.
It's a mystery who or what lives inside house number 23.
Behind these trees is a smart Victorian London house, just like hundreds of others dotted up and down the country. It could be any house in any town, a perfectly ordinary town dwelling. But there's something very out of the ordinary about what lurks behind the mysterious facade of number 23. I made some inquiries and I found that the postman never visits and the dustman never calls. Let's have a word with the neighbours. Oh, hello there.
Yeah.
Could you tell me, have you ever met the neighbours at number 23?
No.
And does anyone ever visit there?
No one.
Do you ever hear any strange noises coming from there?
Not really, but there's often a very strange rumble during the course of the day.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello there. Could you tell me, have you ever seen the neighbours at number 23?
No, never.
Have you ever seen anyone visit them?
No.
Have you ever heard any strange noises from there?
Yeah, occasionally.
Okay, thanks. On further investigation, I discovered that no one has ever been able to see through the windows. If you take a closer look, you'll see that they're made of concrete, as if someone, or something, has a secret to hide. The mystery deepened when I found that the records show that clouds of smoke and steam used to be seen rising from the roof area, but it wasn't on fire. Then one particular day, all the smoke and steam stopped. All that can be heard now is the occasional loud rumbling noise, and the house and the windows appear to shake. I've decided that the only way to get inside this mystery is to get right inside number 23.
So, why do you think the house at number 23 is so weird? Is this a mystical secret pathway to another world? Was the house once inhabited by alien beings? Or is Sophie about to enter the most haunted house in Britain?
Well, I can't get in the front door because it's made of concrete, just like the windows. But let's have a look round the back. Well, there isn't a back door or a gate, just this brick wall. But this old map shows that number 23 is directly above London's first underground railway, the Metropolitan line between Paddington and Farringdon. At that time, steam trains were used underground. These would pollute the air and suffocate the crew and the passengers. As you can imagine, the underground tunnels became very unpleasant, so all the smoke and steam was collected in a tank attached to the train. When the train reached the end of the line, any smoke and steam collected would be released into the air from this hole down there, which is behind this false house front at number 23. And as you can see, trains still use the same tunnel today. So the mystery is solved. No one lives at number 23, except the ghosts of steam trains from a bygone age.
It's a mystery why the Great Pyramids of Egypt were built.
Many people thought that the pyramids were used as tombs to bury the pharaohs.
And others thought that they were built to guard the mummified pharaohs, encased for an eternal afterlife.
Yeah, I thought that too. But now we could both be wrong.
Let's study the evidence. The textbooks say that the pyramids of Egypt are the tombs of the pharaohs.
Yeah, but if they are the tombs of the pharaohs, why build a massive pyramid on the top to advertise the fact that they were chock-a-block with jewellery and precious items? A great advert for robbers.
Well, textbooks also say that they were built 4,500 years ago, around the year 2,500 years BC.
However, there hasn't ever been any real evidence to support this. In fact, the mystery of the pyramids has always intrigued us.
One of the latest theories put forward by two experts suggests that the Egyptians were in fact trying to mirror space by literally pulling the stars from the night sky and setting them down here on Earth. Well, before you laugh at the idea, just listen to the evidence. Imagine it's the year 10,500 BC. If you had looked up into the dawn sky, you would have seen the band of stars called the Milky Way, or as the Egyptians called it, the Winding Waterway. They thought of it as a twin of the River Nile, down there. Now that was the most important water source on which their lives depended. To the right, you would have seen a group of 3 stars known as Orion's Belt. And in 10,500 BC, these stars would have lined up exactly with the layout of the pyramids on the ground. The pyramid's peaks were the exact mirror image of these 3 stars. So, could the Egyptians really have built the pyramids to copy the stars in the sky?
Well, what's more, on the horizon, a bit earlier in the same Egyptian dawn sky, in the year 10,500 BC, there would have been a cluster of stars known as Leo. They're called Leo because if you join the stars, they're roughly the shape of a lion. So the theory reckons that the Egyptians built the nearby Sphinx in the image of the Leo star cluster up in the sky. From the side, the stars and the Sphinx both look like a lion. So it turns out that the Egyptians could well have been putting the stars down here on Earth.
Great theory, but the stars were only in these positions in 10,500 BC, and the pyramids were supposed to be built in 2,500 BC. You're only 8,000 years out.
Oh yes, but yet another theory dates them earlier. It's been discovered that marks found on the side of the Sphinx looked exactly the same as a piece of limestone does when rain beats down on it for hundreds of years. And what's that got to do with the date it was built?
Well, in 2,500 BC, Egypt was as dry as a bone, so the Sphinx would have had to have been built much earlier to have obtained these marks.
It's now been worked out that thousands of years earlier, towards the end of the Ice Age, the Sahara Desert on which the Sphinx stands would have been green. At this time, there were rains heavy enough to cause such erosion, so that would mean that the Sphinx could have been built much earlier. Perhaps a date of 10,500 BC is more realistic, so the dates do coincide. It's a real possibility that the reason the pyramids were built was to try and put the stars right here on Earth. Do you think it could be true?
Well, amazingly, these new theories of why the pyramids and Sphinx were built all seem to add up. There's just one big problem. There is no real proof.
You okay, Neil? It's a mystery to me why Neil is crying. Well, there are a number of reasons why people cry. We think that the crying goes back to when we were babies. At this time in our lives, crying was our only way to express an urgent need, discomfort, hunger, thirst, or an overwhelming need to be comforted. When you're older and you're saddened by a film, or you're angry or upset, and you have no other way of expressing yourself, you burst into tears, just like you would have done as a baby. You sure you're okay, Neil?
Yeah, I'll be all right in a minute.
Some people, like actors and actresses, have to be able to cry to order. For instance, they might be in a television or theatre scene where they have to cry, so they just turn it on. This is Ben, and he's an actor. So how do you do it?
Well, I think of a sad memory, and hopefully, if it's strong enough, it'll bring back the emotion, and I'll be able to cry.
So could you do it for us now?
You okay?
Thanks, Ben.
It's okay.
So why was Neil crying earlier?
I was crying because of one of these. I've been chopping an onion. And the reason it made me cry is because onions contain an acid which becomes a powerful irritant when it comes into contact with water, the watery film of my eyes. Now the eyes are diluting the acid, which in turn is producing my tears.
So there you go. There's many reasons for tears. And did you know that when we're miserable, apparently our tears are meant to be different from those produced when our eyes are irritated by something? Our emotional tears contain a substance that makes us feel down. If we cry, we get rid of it and feel better.
So it's unhealthy to hold back your tears. In fact, if you don't cry and let those bad feelings out, you risk becoming more upset, and this in turn can make your body's immune system vulnerable to nasty bugs. So don't bottle up your feelings when you're upset. Just remember, it's cool to cry.
My name is Eddie Dedman. I live in Sherborne in Dorset. I have what I believe is firm evidence of a panther living in this country. It was a sunny day in mid-June 95. I was with my family on an outing to Aldred Priory, which is in Kent. I suddenly saw this black cat near some greenhouses. When I saw the animal, from that distance, it appeared to be about that high, whereas an ordinary domestic cat would be something like that. I could even see the hairs on the back of the animal as it moved slowly along. Suddenly it stopped and I thought looked at me. Believe me, I was ready to run. Some people in the priory thought that it might have been a large, fat domestic cat, but I've seen cats before. Believe me, it was no cat, it was a panther.
What do you think? Could Eddie really have witnessed a prowling panther? Well, over the last 20 years, there have been hundreds of supposed sightings and reports of wildcats in Britain. Some think that this is down to a law passed 20 years ago. This law made it much more difficult for people to own wild and dangerous animals as pets. So, what did they do with their pet panthers? Some say they were released into the countryside and that this may be photographic evidence. This is a footprint possibly made by a panther that has been sighted around Exmoor. And these droppings were found in Devon in 1990. Do they belong to a big cat? So could Eddie have caught one on film? Compare a picture of his cat with a picture of a real panther. Could this mysterious cat be a black panther? What do you think? Well, we decided to investigate a little further. We went out and measured the edge of this wooden cold frame right next to where Eddie saw the animal. And we found it to be about 40 centimetres high, which is about this high. It's quite tall. Now, the Priory believe that what Eddie filmed was their big fat pet cat, Sylvie. So we measured Sylvie and found her to be about 30 centimetres tall. That's quite a bit smaller than the animal Eddie said he saw. So is Eddie right? Could the mysterious black cat be a panther? Or is it just an ordinary domestic cat? What do you think? We wanted to talk to an expert. So here's Inspector Dave Fox from the Rspca. Now, Dave, do you believe that there really are wildcats like panthers roaming around the countryside?
Well, around the 10 Rspca regions, we've had hundreds of calls, hundreds of reports of these things, but no physical evidence.
And what do you think of the footage that Eddie shot with his camera?
I think it's just a big black domestic cat, but who knows?
Thanks, Dave. What do you think? Is it a plain old pussycat or a panther?
It's a mystery whether this water could have trickled down a dinosaur's back. So, okay, how could it have? Well, this glass of water came from this tap. Before that, it was in the pipes, and about 3 days ago, it was in a reservoir. Before that, a river, and before that, it fell as rain.
In fact, water goes round and round and round in an endless cycle. It falls as rain and forms little streams, which become bigger streams, and then rivers, which flow into lakes, reservoirs, and eventually the sea. All that time, it's evaporating into the air, where it becomes clouds and finally falls again as rain. Because water goes round in this cycle, it means that the water which falls on us as rain has fallen as rain millions of times before and will probably fall millions of times again.
But it hasn't always been like this because, believe it or not, it hasn't always rained. There was a time, millions of years ago, when there were no rivers, no lakes, no seas, and just massive dry holes where the oceans are today. Then one day, it started to rain. It rained, and it rained, and it rained. In fact, it rained every day for 60,000 years. Just imagine that, every single day pouring with rain, giving us all our oceans, all our rivers, and all our streams.
Some of the water, as it goes round and round in its endless cycle, can end up getting trapped. For example, some of it filters down through rocks, where it can get caught for a very long time. This water last fell as rain 20,000 years ago and has been lying underneath the ground for all that time.
Now that's old, but not as old as this. Now, okay, it's not water, it's a crystal. But there are tiny pockets of water inside it, which were trapped there when the crystal was formed. Now, if you look at it through the microscope, the bubbles you can see are in fact bubbles of water, which last fell as rain 200 million years ago, and which have remained locked inside for all that time.
But let's get back to this water. Could it ever have fallen onto the back of a dinosaur? What do you think? Could it really be possible?
Well, the answer lies in the water cycle. It just keeps going round and round and round, which means that millions of years ago, this water could well have fallen as rain and trickled down a dinosaur's back.
Well, there we are. Some mysteries we've solved, and some remain unsolved.
So join us next time for more intrigue, mysteries and spooky goings-on.
But just before you go, here's one last mystery for you to solve.
A man is lying dead in the middle of a field. There is nothing next to him except an unopened package. There is nobody else around. So how did he die?
Can you solve the mystery?
We'll reveal the answer next time.
In last week's final mystery, a double-decker bus got stuck under a low bridge. So how did the driver free it? By letting down the tyres to lower the bus.